school is a private school for kids with autism, as Mrs. Greiger already touched on. We service kids with kids ages 7 to 18 currently at the school, but we can have kids from kindergarten to 21. So for kids with special needs, they're in high school until 21. That's kind of when they graduate. So we can have kids anywhere in that range. It's just right now our oldest guy is 18. And then our school, what's kind of different and unique about it is that we, all of our teaching is based on the principles of applied behavior analysis, which is a specific applied science that is based on the idea that all behavior is functional. And that's, really specific to kids with autism, why you're using that ideology. Sorry. I don't more. Thanks. All right, so before I get started talking a little bit more in depth about what our school does, I'm just going to give a really brief overview on autism. So right there, that's the DSM-5 definition of autism. It's a lot to take in. What that basically means is that there's a delay in language. So a lot of the kids that are, when a child's diagnosed with autism, that means that they, don't speak in the same developmental milestones as a typically developing child. Notice, there's really a delay in vocal language. That doesn't mean that the kids don't want to communicate or don't need to communicate. It's just, for whatever reason, the spoken language is not developing as quickly. So one thing you might notice as our students are walking around with you guys in that building is a lot of them use different forms of communication. So you might see our kids holding iPads. That's their way of talking. Again, because just like, any other person, they have a lot of things they need and a lot of things they want to say, and that's just how we help them say it because their vocal speech isn't developing as quickly. Oh, sorry. Another major difference another major difference with kids with autism is that kids with autism tend to have a little bit of difficulty with social skills. So they have difficulty understanding social cues, understanding when a facial expression means you're not happy with what's going on. And again, because of that delay in communication, they have difficulty getting your attention. One thing that's really important to know that sometimes gets a little confusing because of these delays in social skills, it doesn't mean that kids with autism aren't interested in social interaction or they don't like other people. The kids that I know with autism specifically tend to like interaction and attention and those sorts of attention components more or as much as any typically developing person. So it's really difficult for them to learn the socially appropriate ways that, kids learn how to get attention and communicate moving forward. So the other major component of kids, or characteristic of children with autism, is they tend to have unique and sometimes repetitive interests. So what that kind of looks like is they just may not be interested in the same things as a typically developing kid would be. So, as you get older, you move from watching toddler shows to watching, kid TV shows to watching adult TV shows, stuff like that. Our kids may just be really interested in Elmo and really have trouble ever moving past that interest in Elmo because they just love Elmo. But the most important thing to remember with knowing about people and kids with autism is that just like all typically developing people, kids with autism are totally unique and totally different. So if you meet one kid with autism, you've met one kid with autism. And the next kid you meet or the next person you meet with autism may be totally different and have a totally different set of interests and a totally different set of strengths. So that's just something to remember. All right. So then, what do we do at Milagre? So as Mrs. Greiger touched on, Milagre is a school for kids that are having a lot of difficulty in their own school districts. So they come to us for a little bit more specialized and individualized support. All of our kids' programs are entirely individualized. So that's a little different than what you'll see in a typical school, in that a lot of times you'll have, your whole class will have one set of reading materials, and then you might separate it out to help someone that needs a little more help or to make it a little more challenging for some people, but generally it's the same basic stuff. We're a little different in that there's the same assessments that all the kids are done, but then their programs from kid to kid look totally different based on where their strengths lie and also where maybe they need a little more support. And then, as I touched on briefly entirely on the science of applied behavior analysis. So applied behavior analysis is the idea that all behavior is functional. So what happens after a behavior is either increases or decreases the likelihood of it happening again in the future. So the reason that we use that science is that that is the only research-based method for teaching kids with autism and making meaningful gains. And that doesn't necessarily mean we're going to cure autism, but it does mean that we're going to teach a lot of skills and help reduce a lot of things that we may not want to see that may be, hindering the individual's progress in the community. And then the other component of our school is we use Skinner's analysis of verbal behavior. And basically what that is the science of applied behavior analysis put behind the development of language. And that's because, as I talked about earlier, our kids with autism have a really hard time developing language. So that's kind of it. That's what Milagre is and what we do. If you see us around in the hallway, that's all part of their teaching time. And there's a lot of ways that you guys can help, and we can all, kind of create one community together. The easiest and maybe the most helpful way is just saying hi. As I mentioned, our kids do like interaction, they like attention. They struggle a little bit. They're probably not going to walk up and say hi, how are you doing to you? But they would love getting a high five or saying hi or having someone just look at them and give them a wave. So if you see our kids, feel free to say hi to them and their staff. I'm sure they would love to see you and hear from you. And then there's a couple other ways that over the past 4 years, the DUC students have really helped us a lot and made us feel a lot like a part of this community. And the first way is material preparation. So if you're someone that's just interested in helping out and helping our school, we've had kids come in and just help us with material prep. Since all of our kids' programs are totally individualized, it's a lot of stuff to create and put together, and we would love anybody that's interested in just giving back a little bit to come help us out, and we can give you some stuff to do. The other way is the past 4 years we've had really amazing kids come out and work one-on-one with our students, and we're interested in continuing that this year. So if you're interested in doing that, there's an application process, and you would go through Mrs. Grega. And the same thing for material preparation, you would go through Mrs. Grega. So that was a lot of information really quickly, and I talk really fast, so I'm sorry if any of it got lost. You can feel free to email me. I'm Dianne at milagrekidschool@gmail.com. If you have any questions about our school specifically, or if you have general questions about autism, I'm not, necessarily a complete expert, but I would definitely be able to point you in the direction of materials or, different research or anything you need if you're interested in questions.